All right, so we are back with Dr. Mike Van Thielen. Dr. Mike, welcome back, sir. Nice to see you. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Sean.
We've got a great call today scheduled, and we're going to be talking about stress and anxiety and ways to be more productive. But I wanted to go through before we start the call, and I'll reintroduce the title on your credentials because you do have an extensive list of credentials. And I think this is like our maybe our sixth call or so. I mean, we've got a whole video library with you now on our channel. So thanks for coming back. But Dr. Mike, expert biohacker and mentor, PhD of holistic nutrition, doctor of oriental medicine, licensed physical therapist, licensed acupuncture physician, a bachelor's in professional health studies, a bachelor's in physical health education, expert in functional medicine and regeneration medicine, certified in Chinese herbal medicine, homeopath, homeotoxicology, injection therapy, bioidentical hormone replacement, laser therapy, and non-invasive cosmetic procedures, international keynote speaker, which is how I met you originally, author of how many books now? Eight?
Number eight.
Seven?
Yeah.
Over eight. We've got a new book we're going to talk about today. Entrepreneur, philanthropist, and world record holder for swimming, which I know that you've got another thing that we talked about in the last call that you're going to do to try to compete once again, which I think is phenomenal. And we're going to talk more about that. Now, today's call is going to be a closer look of stress, anxiety, and depression and strategies to optimize focus and production. So, many people suffer from anxiety and depression. In your opinion, what's the main cause of that?
Yes, Sean. Actually, I got a little bit more involved into these mental condition and illnesses because during the pandemic or COVID era, colleagues of mine asked me to help out for a little bit and do pre-screening calls for people who wanted to qualify for medical marijuana. And so, to my surprise, there were so many people suffering from anxiety, depression, PTSD, whether military or civilian, uncertainty, worry, fear, you name it, ADHD. And so I start to figure out, well, yes, there are therapies out there. There are drugs out there. There's even supplements and natural therapies out there. But what is the underlying cause? Why are so many people not in control of their life and having these symptoms and conditions? I mean, I can only imagine having anxiety every day, how that affects your life, or being depressed, obviously. So then I really figured out, and that's part of the base of why I wrote this book too, is that these people, or many of them at least, have no purpose in life. So imagine, Sean, you're going through life and you're going to your job and the boss keeps throwing stuff at you and you have to stay another half hour late, and then you got to rush your kids to soccer, and then there's the wife, and then there's dinner, and then there's the bombardment of all these social media and messages that we're unable to organize. And so within this vicious cycle of putting out fires and every day repeating that cycle just to survive. And if you think about it that way, of course, we're going to be uncertain. We're going to be worrying about the next day and next week and paying the bills next month. And of course, there's going to be fear instilled. And of course, that leads to anxiety and depression and uncertainty. So to me, when we talk about those things, nobody talks about the real cause, or, looking a little bit further and why are we in this state where so many of us are suffering these mental symptoms or conditions. And so I think it's a lack of purpose of life, because if we know what our purpose is, we know our dreams, our goals, we have a plan to get there, and we are in control of our life and our agenda, then why would there be depression? Why would there be anxiety? It's when we're not in control of our life and life is thrown at us that there's these uncertainties, fears, worries. And I think those then result in anxiety, depression, PTSD, ADHD, etc.
So why is it that you think that most of us are not living our life purpose?
Well, I think it starts the day we're born, Sean, because there's society, and society tries to push us in a certain direction, right? They want us to go to school, and then after high school, they want us to go to college. And when we graduate, we should work for somebody till we're 65, and then they promise us the golden years where we're supposed to buy an RV and enjoy the rest of our life. But often that doesn't help because other things get in the way, including sickness and finances. So that's one way. And then we have also, I would say our parents that push us, not just our parents, but also our teachers are the people that have an influence early in our life. They push us a certain direction. For example, dad's a lawyer. He probably wants you to go to law school. Mom went to med school but didn't finish, so maybe she wants to vicariously live through you and send you to med school. But the bottom line is nobody asks you what your passions and fires in your stomach are and what you want to do. And so we are kind of guided in certain directions by the people that we're surrounded with and by society. And then suddenly we end up with degrees and we end up with jobs that we are doing to survive and provide for our families, but are not necessarily the things that cause fire in our stomach, that unleash our superpowers that we are passionate about. And so, one of the things that I do today is really, say, stop right there. And let's reassess which direction we're going, because you're probably not living your life. And there's many ways to figure that out, but we just got to stop that rat race and stand still for a moment and ask ourselves, are we living our dreams? Are we living our purpose, or are we not?
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, most people today are not.
So how do we find our purpose in life? What is the process, or how do we look to find that?
Yeah. Well, there's many exercises and conversations that I have with my mentees to figure that out. And sometimes we can figure it out in 10 minutes, and sometimes it takes only 2 days. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer to really be sure, because we want to be sure, because your purpose then sets the stage for everything else that we're going to do, right? So, for example, a simple question is, when you get up in the morning, do you say things to yourself in your mind or to others like, I gotta get up, I gotta go to work, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta go to the gym? If that's what you're saying, you're not living your purpose. Or are you saying, I get to get up, I get to get to work, I get to do this, I get to do that, I get to go to the gym? Are you waking up feeling like you want to attack the day and get some things done, because they bring you just that one incremental step closer to your dreams and your goals, and you're excited to get up, you can't wait to get up because you want to get things done? And so that's unfortunately the minority of us. But that simple question will answer not necessarily what your purpose is, but it will already answer, are you living your purpose right now? And so unfortunately, many people say, no, I don't feel that way in the morning. Well, then you're not living your dream or your purpose. So what is your purpose? We do certain exercises. Sometimes this simple one works, not for everybody, but many times I ask, what was the superpower that you wanted when you were a kid? What were the dreams about when you were a kid? And so who did you want to be when you were a kid? And at that time, when you were a kid, there was no doubt in your mind that you could be that person, until somebody told you, most likely your parents, that's impossible. And so when we get that message, most of us start to settle for ordinary and follow the directions that we're pushed in, right? So many times when I ask people, what were their dreams or passions as a kid? Sometimes you get, I wanted to be a pilot. And so then I go like, what does it feel right now when you say that? Are you still wanting to be a pilot? And some of them still, their eyes open and their passion reignites when we're talking about being a pilot. So maybe it's still their purpose, but maybe they say, oh no, that was as a kid. It doesn't do anything right now, right? So there's two options there, but sometimes it reignites something that they wanted all their life, but they just got misdirected into another direction. Another thing I do is do certain exercises. For example, this is a 3-part exercise that's in my book. First, I ask people, write down 3 or 5 topics that you would talk about if you were invited to do a TEDx talk. Now, most people know that when you do a TEDx talk, you will have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people watching it. So if you have 3, maybe 5 topics, what would they be? What would they be? And I give them 5-10 minutes to think about it and write those down, right? That's part number 1. Part number 2 of the exercise, and listeners can do it right now if they want to, is I tell them, close your eyes and imagine you stand on top of a beautiful mountain. The weather's beautiful, the scenery is beautiful, you're looking around yourself 360, and you're just enjoying the peace. And suddenly you see a few people approaching the mountain, and they're sitting down at the base of the mountain. They're looking around, they're looking up, it's quiet. A few minutes later, Sean, 8 billion people are sitting at the base of the mountain. And they're looking up at you. And now you have 10 minutes to deliver only one message. What would that message be? All right, so I give them 5 minutes. And then for the listeners that are actually doing it, pause the video right now so you don't get like, you don't get the answer before you wrote those things down. But once you wrote your topics down and the answer on the one message on top of the mountain, the 3rd part of the exercise is, does the message of the top on the mountain correlate with any of the topics of the TEDx talk? And usually it doesn't. And here's why, Sean. The topics of the TEDx talk, they're more coming from your experience, your knowledge, your expertise, and maybe are even driven by you potentially making money off, talking about those types of things. It's your credentials. It's what you're good at right now, but it may not be your passion. And then the thing on top of the mountain is usually a message that comes from the heart, not from the brain. The TEDx talk comes from the brain. The top of the mountain is the heart, right? And so many times it's something that you're not even an expert in, or you wouldn't even know necessarily how to deliver that message or the practicality of that message. But that doesn't matter, because the question then becomes, which of those topics, the ones of the TEDx talk are on top of the mountain, lights you up, makes you feel passionate, puts fire in your stomach. And so many times, obviously, it's the one on top of the mountain. But people are scared of that because it's a big dream and it's overwhelming. And they have many excuses based on their past, or they feel overwhelmed thinking about it. But that's exactly what their purpose is, what their passion is, and their superpower, and we need to unleash it. And that's when we start generally transforming their current life, gradually transitioning is the better word, transitioning into their purpose. Because the first objection I get from most people, Sean, is, well, that's nice. And you're right, Mike. I feel that passion and I feel that fire, but I got to provide for my family. I have 2 jobs. I really can't just drop all that. And I'm telling them, you don't have to drop it. Let's start with step number 1. Let's start freeing up 1 hour of time per day so we can start working on it and slowly transitioning it. Oh, I don't have an extra hour a day. Oh, yes, you do. Let's look at what you do every day, where you waste all that time. And if it's not social media or watching Netflix, well, maybe you're in meetings that take an hour where we actually could make a decision in 15 minutes. And so now we're going to start to take control over their life, freeing up valuable time, because we can't borrow time, we can't buy time. So the only thing we need to do, or can do, is free it up. So we're going to free up time so now we can, on a daily basis, slowly starting to work again on their purpose, on their dreams. And so those are the ways we quite quickly can really identify and redirect people so they can be passionate again and wake up with fire in their stomach. And Sean, usually that automatically eliminates those fears, those worries, those anxieties, those depressions.
Right. I love it. A few of the things, honestly, Dr. Mike, that you're talking about are things that resonate with me because, I'm not sure if you know my story, but I was in the medical industry, and I was good at it. I understood the equipment. We did millions of dollars in sales, had a very successful company. But when the energy and the health and wellness stuff came in, I could really see that that was the future, and I was really having a direct impact on the lives of many people. I was like, oh, but I'm in the medical industry. How do I transition and how do I do this? And so it was exactly what you said. It was just taking a little bit of time, a few hours, 5, 6 hours a week, and
Yeah.
slowly starting a little side business. Then, starting to learn more about it. Because as you said, if you wanted to open up a surgery center, I could list off every product you needed. I knew everything about it. That was all coming from here. I understood that industry very well. But if it came from the heart and it came to all this new stuff, I was passionate about wanting to learn it. I was passionate about wanting to know more. And even though I initially started off with a much smaller knowledge base, to me, none of it was ever work. Even today, doing this interview, this is not work. This is absolutely fun.
Yeah.
I love it. But but I get a lot of those people that I talk to that are in that same boat where, they, like you exactly said, I don't like getting up. I hate my job. I hate dealing with this, whatever it is. And they feel like they're locked in. Um, but they all do have those dreams and those passions, and sometimes they have to identify them. Sometimes they already know what they are, but they just can't figure out how to make that transition. And I love what you're doing, because I think a lot of it really is getting them to focus, putting stuff down, and manifesting that reality, and transitioning that reality of what they're doing now, and really telling them that yes, there is in fact a game plan that you can assemble to
Yes.
transition into your passion.
And often it's they need a coach, they need a guide, they need a mentor like myself or many other great ones out there, just to make them accountable on a weekly basis at least, and guide them through there and show the pitfalls. Because I've been there, and you only become a mentor when you feel you took a long path and you feel like you took a little bit too long and you learned many lessons, and you want to help other people get to realize their dreams and goals faster with your help. So I think a lot of people do need direction, do need accountability, do need that coach, do need help with a plan, a strategy, do need to surround themselves with different people. Because the other thing, Sean, I think that holds people back is, even the ones that know their superpower, that know their dreams, that know their passions, they're in their comfort zone, right? And our brain is very basic. It's flight and fight. And so every time we are thinking, getting out of the comfort zone, our brain says, don't. Because anything that is a little bit fearful, our brain's gonna try to talk us out of it, right? So what I do with a lot of people, I talk about what the comfort zone is and what happens when you get out of it. Because when you get out of the comfort zone, you first get into the fear zone. And once you leave the fear zone, you get into the learning zone. Because now, like you just said, Sean, you got to learn about new things, right? You got to develop new skills and learn. And then from the learning zone, you finally get into the new growth zone, where that's the next level. And so people during their life need to continue to get out of their comfort zone into a new growth zone. And then after a while, that new growth zone becomes their new comfort zone, which means is you got to get back out of that comfort zone. And so when people understand more about the comfort zone and also the difficulties that come with it, what are the difficulties? The number one difficulty is that your family, the people close to you, your colleagues, your friends are going to discourage you from getting out of that comfort zone. Why? Because you are part of their comfort zone. Because you're in the same comfort zone and they don't want you to leave because that's uncomfortable to them. So they don't realize that when they discourage you or say, that's all bogus, or you shouldn't do that, or you're going to lose all your money, or you're going to do this, or they try to talk you out of it. Not on purpose, not because they don't care, but unconsciously they don't want you to disrupt their comfort zone. And when you start to understand all those little pieces, then it's much easier to leave that comfort zone, because you're expecting your friends to say no, your spouse to say, oh my God, what are you going to do now? Etc., etc. And when you have those expectations and it's part of the process, and you have a coach to guide you through it, it becomes all much easier.
Right, that's fantastic. Now, before I go to the next question, You are a coach. You do have a website, Biohacking Unlimited. So as we do the video, we're going to have it up and above and below us. People can contact you and get free information, get coaching. I do want to just show the book real quick because you do have a new book. Can you just
Yeah, this is my latest book, The IZOD Method. We'll talk about what it all means in a little bit, but this is available on Amazon, also on my website. Now, if you go to biohackingunlimited.com currently, and maybe temporarily, if you put your email for free and subscribe to my email list, you get a free PDF file of this book within 48 hours. So if you want a free PDF file, copy of the book, just subscribe to my email list at biohackingunlimited.com, Sean.
That's awesome. So the thing I love is that you're asking people, what were my superpowers, and what would they be, and what were they? And then you've got a picture of like Superman on the cover. So tying back into that.
Yeah, that's right. Because, I mean, yes, that's me. I just had a regular Superman, and then people said, no, it's got to be you. So here we went. But a lot of people, like we said, a lot of people don't know their superpowers. They never even thought about it or stood still. They've been just guided by other people, right? But a lot of us, they do know their passions and fires, and they maybe have tapped into it. But today, the world really needs all of our superpowers, Sean. So we really need to, you owe it to yourself, but also the world, to unleash whatever your superpower is. And that's different than tapping into it. So my superpower is that I help people unleash their superpower, because the world needs all of our superpowers.
Right. And the greatest thing about it is you're a person that's actually done it. Like you said, you're the person that's actually done it. So it's easy to help people when you've had to go through the process yourself. Now, I know that a lot of people suffer from insomnia because we're getting a lot of that. I get a lot of those calls. Do you have any tips for people that are having those issues with not being able to sleep?
Yeah, insomnia, stress, all those things go a little bit together. But when we're specifically talking about insomnia, yes, I have tips for them. First of all, most people that can't fall asleep because their mind's going wild, right? There's those fears, there's those worries. What is tomorrow going to bring? What do I have to do tomorrow? How am I going to do this tomorrow? In the meeting, what am I going to say tomorrow? So you got those thousands of thoughts that are just continuing to be in our mind. And obviously we can't get into a deep sleep. We can't fall asleep. And so it comes back to taking control of our life. Because most of us are just going through life, but we're not in control. And so in the IZOD method, in my book, besides finding our purpose, the next step or part of that is we need to regain control, not just of our health, but our life. We need to be in control of our agenda. We need to be in control of our calendar. We need to know exactly what's happening tomorrow, next week, next month, and we need to have a plan and a strategy towards our goals and our plans. And the more control that we create, the more clarity that we have. And the more clarity that we have, the less stress that we have. Because the more things are clear, the less stress. That makes sense, right? More control, right. More clarity, less stress. So when I help people really take control of their life, almost script their life, and when they're in total control, Sean, they're clear about every day, every week, what's coming next month, what's coming next year, when things will happen. And when we get to that point, there's no stress at all. And when there's no stress, we're not going to have all those thoughts going through our minds. But even if we take more and more control and create clarity, our mind's still going at night. So I think an important part for stress and insomnia at night, not just at night, but we have to have power routines in our life. I have 4 power routines. I have a morning power routine, an evening power routine. I have a biohacking power routine, and then I have a dream routine, which are my dreams and goals. And every day I got to do something to take one little step closer to them. So I got 4 routines. Now, part of the evening routine, because we're talking about insomnia, I think, I do 3 minutes of visualization. So what do I visualize? I visualize the next 24 hours. So I run through my day, 24 hours the next day. And during that visualization, I make all the right decisions about what I'm going to have for lunch, about what I'm going to say during the meeting. I do that. And it only takes 3 to 5 minutes, right? And when I do that and run through the next day, my mind's clear. I don't have to worry about it anymore during the night, consciously or unconsciously, because I just got through the whole 24 hours. So that's something that helps for me as part of my power routine to empty my mind, visualize the next day, so I don't have to think about, oh, and this, oh, and I got to drop the car off for this, and oh, I got to go pick up my daughter here and do this, and oh, I can't forget to make this doctor's appointment. Too much stuff going on. That's why we need to get organized. We need to get in control of our calendar, and then we need to do some visualization and clear our mind before we go to bed. So that's just just one example of part of my evening power routine. Because a good evening, creates a good morning creates a good day, and a good day creates a good life.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that. That is such a great way of preparing for the next day, basically, and everything that's coming up by going through those visualizations. So, another thing is people's attention spans, right? And even being able to sit through 5 to 7 minutes, or even 3 to 5 minutes. And it seems that with all the technology in that our attention spans are getting shorter. But why is that? Why do you think that's happening?
Yeah, man, the latest report says that the average attention span is only 6 minutes. 6 minutes we can focus on something, right? And that's, we call it dopamine overload, right? So we have 5 intelligence hormones. We have dopamine, epinephrine, norepinephrine, serotonin, and acetylcholine. And when those hormones are in balance, and when they function optimally, that's when we actually are in the zone. That's when we can produce at our maximum. That's where we're focused. That's when nothing can distract us. That's when we win. That's when we deliver a killer presentation. That's when we crush our sales goals. That's when we do all that stuff. And so most of us have experienced being in the zone, but usually merely by accident, right? And it's like, oh my God, I don't know what happened, but I won. Or, oh my God, I did that presentation at work and it was flawless. I don't know how I did it. I was in the zone, because most of us know in the zone from athletes or musicians only, right? So when you say those 5 intelligence hormones, so most of us, they're not optimized and they're out of balance. And that's because we believe that most of us today are in a dopamine overload. What does that mean? Dopamine is the reward hormone. So when our brain squirts a little bit of dopamine, it feels good. It's like getting a pat on the back. So that's why a lot of people are on a very poor diet, because sugars, energy drinks, coffee, they all give us a little squirt of dopamine, which feels good. So we always seek more of it. It's an addiction, right? The same now with social media. That's why most of us are addicted to social media, and it's hard to cut off social media, because when somebody likes your post, when somebody hearts your Instagram, when somebody puts a nice comment, it's a squirt of dopamine. So it feels good. So now we want to get more of that, right? And so now we are on social media all the time. So to say that, when I say most of us are in a dopamine overload, when dopamine is in excess, it means those intelligence hormones are out of balance. And so that results in brain fog, right? Lack of attention, lack of focus, unable to start the project or your homework, unable to finish it, easily being distracted. And so it's a vicious cycle, because now we're going to get even more coffee or another sugary drink, or even more social media, right? Because we want to feel good. If we can't produce, we feel bad about ourselves. If we can't focus or don't finish our homework, we feel bad. So let's feel good. And so it's a vicious cycle that most people don't know how to get out of. So we need to address the dopamine overload. And we can do that. And the first step is exactly this, is let people understand why they can't focus, why they're easily distracted, why they can't finish a project, why they procrastinate, why they're fidgeting, right? And so it's like, okay, you need to kind of upgrade your diet a little bit, because all this sugar is giving you dopamine squirts. And we need to limit social media. You need to put a plan in place, timers in place. You need to get organized. You need to somehow have tips and strategies so you're in control of your social media, and not the other way around. It comes back to control of your agenda, the activities you're doing, your time, because you're wasting time responding to social media. Unless it's part of your dream, you're wasting time, right? And so the first thing is creating awareness on why they can't focus, why they can't be productive, why they can't win, why they can't be a winner. And then it's implementing tips and strategies that don't have to cost any money to slowly regain control of their life, of their social media. Because I'm not telling people not to do social media. There's probably a purpose to it, like you just said. You know, you want to get the word out about this bed technology and anti-aging bed technology. And so the only way to do effective marketing today is online. So it can have a purpose, but still, you know, you want to be in control. When am I going to use it? How am I going to use it? Right? And so the second step after awareness is let's get in control of it. Right? And so we talked about focus. You wanted to know about focus because I work with a lot of people with ADHD, etc. So first, many times it's purpose of life. Then it's taking control of their life and putting all those things in place. And let's say somebody has really trouble with focus. Well, we got to go back to basics. Okay, you want to do your homework or you want to work on a project from home for your boss. Well, first of all, let's designate an area in your house or your office where you're going to work on this project, because most of us now don't have a designated work area. So they're sitting in front of the TV. Or you're going to be distracted, or they're just sitting in the living room or on their bed. Of course, you're going to fall asleep. Of course, you're going to be lazy. Or people are just, you know, in the same area and they ask questions. They distract you. So let's eliminate as much distractions as we can by assigning a working area. And then once you're in that area and there's other people around, you tell them, look, I'm going to start working. Please do not interrupt me. And then there's this nice little device that always interrupts me, our phone. So we're going to say, okay, let's put this phone on airplane mode while I'm working on this project, because otherwise I'm going to be interrupted. Now, remember, people, this phone is for you to use. If you need to use the phone because you need to call somebody to ask questions about your project, go ahead, right? It's the fastest and easiest way. Sean and I had to actually jump on our bicycle or walk to the library for a few miles in the rain and then try to find a book amongst a million books and then try to make copies of what we needed to have and then go back home. And we didn't have a computer and then we had to type it in and then we have to write it out with some, I mean, it was a process. You guys are so lucky. You can save hours by just making a call or going online. So if it fits your purpose, if it's part of being productive, use it. But then you're going to put it off. Why are you going to put it off? Because you don't want any other person to interrupt you for their benefit while you're being productive for yourself. So don't do yourself a disservice and let other people interrupt you while you're working. And so those are just a few examples, Sean, to get control, eliminate distractions, and get work done. Another one, and the last one I will give your listeners, is the Pomodoro technique. It's one of the many techniques. It's not the only one, but it works for many people, which is the technique that simply says you work 20 minutes, 20 to 25 minutes, and you set your timer. Your phone is in another room. You're just focused on what you need to do, 20, 25 minutes. Timer goes off. Now you have to, no matter how focused you are, take a 5-minute break. So you leave your designated working area and you go do whatever you want to do. But not 4 minutes, 59 seconds, not 5 minutes and 1 second, 5 minutes. Go back in and you repeat this cycle 4 or 5 times. And that helps for a lot of people. And so my book has many of those tips and strategies. And I obviously help people to see which one work for certain people. Too, again, it's about control, eliminating distractions, and focus on those types of things.
That's great information. And, you know, in this day and age, we are hearing so much now about the word brain fog and insomnia. I don't know about you, but when I grew up, the word brain fog, I never heard of it. And I swear to God, I'll hear it 10 times a week now, where everybody's got that, or insomnia and all the other things that I think a lot of it has to do with exactly what you're talking about.
You and I, Sean, we didn't have these distractions, right? We didn't even have a phone. We didn't have a computer. We didn't have social media. So when I left the house, you know, with my friends on my bicycle, you know, my mom would say, be back at 5 o'clock, dinner be ready. And they wouldn't hear from us all day because it was impossible to get in contact. Right. When I first was at university, I had a phone, a land phone. And so when I came back home, there were maybe 6 messages, but then it took 24 hours to get back to those people or hear back from them, right? So there weren't those distractions. We were in the moment, Sean, because that's the only place where we could be was in the moment. So I understand. Because the average person now is bombarded with 14,000 digital messages today. And our brain, it's impossible for our brain to organize those and be in control of those. That's why we need to take control. We need to have systems in place. We have, virtual assistants. We have artificial intelligence. And so it's all about getting in control of all that chaos that really runs our life today. And most people are run by the chaos. And so we simply need to flip that. And that's what I'm doing. I'm helping people flip and get in control of that chaos. So we free up a lot of time. We get rid of anxieties and worries and fears and all those types of things very simply by going back to basics. Yeah.
That is. Well, that actually brings up like the next thing I wanted to ask about. So you took it one step further and you developed the IZOD method, right, to maximize focus and productivity. So to tell us about the IZOD method, what it is and why we should master that.
Yeah, so again, it goes back to that story when I was making all those calls during and after the pandemic, and it's like, oh my God, I didn't know the extent, because I really didn't have to deal with it in my near surroundings, my family, but I didn't realize the extent of how many people are suffering with all these symptoms and conditions. So I really said, okay, people don't understand it's much deeper than going to therapy, or it's much deeper than that. It's purpose of life. It's taking control of your life. It's this dopamine overload that we have been talking about. And so the solutions are simple and they don't have to be even expensive, right? So I said, I need to develop a method that people can follow and master. And so that was the IZOD method. And IZOD stands for in the zone, on demand. And so because we think, the average person, we think that being in the zone is just for top athletes or even musicians when they're like in the zone and Slash does it's 5 minutes, on the guitar and he's in the zone. That's where we know it from. But when you ask most people, they have experienced it at some point in their life, but it was merely by accident. So the question is, how can we reproduce that being in the zone, that state of mind, so we can bring our A game each and every time? We can crush our competition. We can deliver the best that we can be. And so that's the IZOD method, in the zone, on demand. Yeah. And so what people need to realize, it's not just for top athletes. It could be for anybody, entrepreneurs, musicians, performers, John Doe, anybody that wants to perform at their highest potential. When they master the IZOD method, I believe they are able to be in control. And when you're in control of your own body and your own mind, you can get in the zone whenever you want to. And when you get it, and when you need to do homework or perform or win a competition, whatever it is, when you're in the zone, you have the ultimate advantage over anybody else because other people can't do that.
Awesome. So can you elaborate on what the method entails, like from a practical standpoint?
Yes, there's 3 distinctive steps. Of course, they overlap when we work on them. But step number 1, which sets the base, we talked about it. We need to identify or at least confirm that your current purpose of life is your real purpose of life, because it sets the stage. If we're working in the wrong direction with all of this, it's just a waste of time, right? So purpose of life is step number 1, and that's when we also start taking control of our life with all these tips and strategies we just talked about. Is control of our agenda, of our calendar, knowing what tomorrow brings, next week brings, etc. And customize it based on, are you a procrastinator? Do you have problems focusing? Can you not start a job? Are you fidgeting? Whatever it is, let's put things in place to eliminate the distractions and focus, right? So that's step number 1. Step number 2 is nothing new, but nobody ever does, is we need a plan or a strategy. In business, we always need a plan, but most people think a plan has to be complicated. No, we only need to know the what's. What are your goals? What are your dreams, right? And so the details and the how-tos, they will fall in place as we move along, right? And so to me, Sean, is what you have experienced, with the people that we surround ourselves with. The people you surround yourself with are important. But there's something else that I help people with. If you need to surround yourself with the people that you need, and I call it a team of experts, because by yourself, you never will reach your highest potential. You can't do that by yourself. And some of the things that I learned is that people always used to tell other people, you need to work on your weaknesses. Totally wrong. 110% wrong. I believe you need to continue to work on your strengths and continue to unleash your own superpowers. But you can identify your weaknesses. And now we need to look for people that are strong where you are weak. And that's how you build a team of experts. So initially, I help people to identify the titles or the qualities that we need. And then from there, we identify the actual person. And it could be your current secretary. It could be somebody in your family. It could be your daughter. It could be your uncle. Or it could be a professional, but it doesn't have to be that millionaire or billionaire. It's just somebody with qualities and strengths where you are weak, and the people that we need to get to our highest potential and fulfill those dreams. So that's all. Step number one is a plan, a strategy, a team, and continue to take more and more control of your life, clarity. Because, Sean, when you don't have that purpose and control, and there's an obstacle, we throw our hands in the air. Oh my God, here we go again. It's not meant to be. I can't do this. There's disappointment. There's depression. We give up. But it's just like the 110-meter hurdles for men, or women, it's 100-meter hurdles, right? They know where the finish line is. They have their experts around them, their coaches, their personal trainers, their nutritionists, and they're surrounded by the perfect team. They know where the finish line is, but there's 10 hurdles. They're not going to throw up their arms because they know where the finish line is. They're going to attack those hurdles. They're going to attack those obstacles. They know that each obstacle is one step closer to the finish and their golden medal or their world record, whatever it may be. And so, again, it's not just for athletes. When we know where the finish line is because we have a plan, when we have the right people around us that show us how to take those hurdles, then we're going to wake up with that fire and passion in our stomach, and we're ready to take a hurdle today. Versus like, oh my God, it's not meant to be. Why me? Why me? Depression, anxiety, fear, worry. So that makes all the difference. So that's step number 2. So now we have our purpose, we have our plan, we have our team, we know where we're going. All those negative emotions are gone. All those worries and fears are gone. Now, Sean, step number 3, that's where you and I come in and everybody else that we know. We need to biohack. We need to upgrade our body, our mind, and our life. And the mind's going to be the most important part there. But just for people, again, our body, our health is so important. It doesn't matter if you're an athlete, a musician, an artist, a performer, an entrepreneur, a top CEO. You're only going to perform at your maximum potential when you are in optimal health. Anybody in less than optimal health is not going to perform as good as they could be if they were in optimal health. Nobody can argue that one. And then there's the mind. And that's what's the most important part, Sean, is getting in control of our emotions, feelings, and our mind. Because that's how we control our body. That's how we control our destiny.
Right. So you said upgrading and taking control of mind is the key for success. And so how does one achieve that control?
Yeah. And that's why you need to, master the IZOD method, because that's a key component of you turning on the switch and getting in the zone on the man and winning, right? And so most people are driven by the past, and we need to start being pulled forward by our future. And now it's easy, Sean, because we already put our purpose in place, our plan in place. We got the experts surrounded. So now it's much easier to not look back, but look forward and get excited about what's coming to us. And we need to already live that person and be that person that already achieved those goals. We've heard that before, but the question is, how do we do that practically, right? And so there's many things. First of all, we need to understand that our mind is the blueprint and our mind is our destiny. So whatever we're thinking is what we put out there. If we think we're going to fail, we're going to fail, right? We heard that many times, but it's so true. So first of all, we need to understand that our beliefs are simply thoughts that we keep on thinking. But if you understand that a belief is simply a thought that we can keep on thinking, then you also got to understand that we can change that at any point, right? So that's number 1. Number 2, if there's any doubt in our mind at phase number 3 that that we're not going to be successful, we're not going to win, we're not going to achieve our dreams, then the universe has two options if there's some doubt: failure and success. If we get to a point when there's no doubt at all in our mind, because we're surrounded with the right people, we have a plan, we have a strategy, I'm making up with fire, I'm taking those hurdles. If there's no doubt in our mind that we're going to achieve that dream and unleash that superpower, guess what? The universe only has one option. That's a big win. So with my mentees, I work on belief system. I work on, no doubt in your mind. And that comes with getting more and more control and clarity, right?
Mhm.
And so I also work on things like I said, visualization, right? Manifesting. How do we manifest something? It's not just thinking like, putting pictures and vision boards. Those are all tools that may help, but there's a lot more to it, because you have to assume the feeling when you get up in the morning and all that. You have to assume the feeling that you already did achieve those dreams and those goals.
Yes.
And so it's not just putting it out there as a thought, but it's another step. It's assuming those feelings. And that's where manifesting to a different level comes into play, right? And then luckily, Sean, we have great technologies and tools today that will facilitate those processes. But to be honest with you, I have a lot of experience here, because obviously with my background, I was more focused on the physical being a swimmer, being an athlete, and things like that. And then a decade or even more ago, people started telling me, the power of the mind. And I witnessed a lot of things that proved to me that the mind is much more powerful. The mind controls the body. And even sports, people say how much of sports is mental, and most coaches say 50 to 90%. But fact remains, it's 100%, right? So if we, for example, if we look at, I always like to use Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant. When we look at their games, they were always in the zone on demand. Even if they lost, it wasn't their fault. It was somebody else's fault. Even if they're sick, even if they're injured, they still deliver. They're never distracted, right? Because those are individuals that were in the zone on demand. Now you can say, what about their teammates? They're high-paid NFL players, NBA players, professional golfers, millionaires, and yet people would say, oh, he or she had an off game, or they didn't perform very good. So what's the difference between today and tomorrow? A good game and a bad game. Their talent didn't diminish overnight, did it? Their physical capacities, our strengths, our skills, did they suddenly diminish overnight? No. The only thing that's different is the thing between the ears, their mind. So in the game, they were not able to get into their zone for whatever reason. They were distracted. Maybe an argument with their partner. Maybe something happened with the kids that week, or maybe with their parents, or maybe there was a financial hiccup. Something, I don't know what, kept them distracted. And so they couldn't get into the zone. So they're just a fraction of a second too late to the ball, or the ball slips through their hand, or they miss an easy putt. And so when you're not in the zone and you have that miss carries over a few holes or a few plays. Now, when you're in the zone, you only have the end in mind. So if Michael Jordan or Kobe missed a shot, it didn't carry over at all.
Right.
Because they only had the win in mind, right? And that's the difference between winning and losing. Being in the zone versus not being in the zone. So today, Sean, for the average person, because we're not Michael Jordans and Kobe Bryants, but we can master the same thing. And today it's easier, because when they told me, oh, Mike, you got to start meditating, guess what happened? I tried many times, but I was unable to clear my mind, and I was unable to get into a different brainwave. I was unable to dissociate my body from my thoughts. And after you do it and try it a few times, but it doesn't work, or you don't feel anything, you give up, because you say, I can't do it. But today, we have technologies and strategies to facilitate that. And so, Sean, in San Diego, we're just talking about before the podcast, there was some breath work. And Travis Steffens, an incredible master of breathwork, he's going to do most of the breathwork at my Costa Rica VIP retreat this year. We did an hour and a half breathwork, and by focusing on my breath, everything else disappeared out of my mind, and I got into a meditative state by concentrating on my breath. So I even didn't realize on how powerful breath work can be to get into a meditative state. But we got other things, right? We got binaural beats, we got the brain tap. And so now we have tools and even technology such as brain tap that can help my mentees and the average person to experience tapping into different brain waves and help us visualize and help us manifest. So now we have the technologies and the tools available to get there much faster. And so once people experience, even only after a few tries, that, oh my God, I was into a different zone or into a different state of mind. Now they are much more willing to continue to practice that because they understand it's working, right? And so those are the things that I do and help people facilitate not only taking control of their mind. The mind controls the body, the mind controls our destiny, the mind will decide our belief system. We need to eliminate false core beliefs because many of us have many false core beliefs. And so that's the work that we do so that we can be in control of our emotions, our feelings, and our mind. And once we're in control of that, we can be in the zone on demand. Whenever you want to win, you're going to win. Whenever you want to deliver, that project, whenever you want to deliver a killer presentation, write a perfect piece of music, play the violin like nobody else, you can. And that's why I feel everybody needs to master the IZOD method so they can not just step into their superpower, but unleash it.
Dr. Mike, I love that so much. And, you bring up so many great points and, the whole thing with, predetermining the whole process and knowing that there's going to be hurdles and preparing to go over those hurdles and just the whole process with the manifestation. And the thing you touched on that I absolutely love, it's not the storyboard, it's not the visualization, it's the feeling. It's the feeling, like intensely feeling that you've got that and living as if it's already there. And I've got so many dear friends who I love to death. I love them, but they can't transition from the visualization into the feeling. And until they get into the real feeling of it, they really aren't pushing they're not.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And the purpose, the reason for that is that it's not that they're not trying, but they're already ahead of the game. They got to go back to basics, which is the purpose. They got to find their fire and their passion, because without that, it doesn't matter how many pictures of BMWs and yachts and travel you put next to your mirror in the morning. You can look at them, you can think about them, but if you don't assume that feeling, it's never going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
I saw a great video with Dr. Joe Dispenza about a week ago, and he brought up a key point also that I thought was phenomenal, which was so many people are thinking about what happened in the past, and they're thinking about what happened in the past, and they're making that their present and projecting that into their future instead of leaving their past in their past and having that vision and focusing on what they want in the future and not keep pulling about this happened, but this happened and just ditching all that. And that's why I think it's so important to have a coach like yourself, somebody that holds you accountable, somebody that walks you through the process, and somebody that's achieved all those goals and all those different things. I think that's why it's so fantastic to have somebody like yourself that's out there that can help these people. I want to see the book one more time, and then I want you to let's go ahead once again and talk about where listeners can learn more about what we're speaking about. And also, do you have any promotions or any things that you're doing right now?
Yeah, so the book is obviously available on Amazon. There's a hardcover and a paperback. If you want a PDF file of it, currently, I don't know how long it's going to last, but currently, if you subscribe to my email, which gives you, weekly updates on biohacking and free information anyways, and you can unsubscribe anytime. But if you do it now, you actually get a free PDF of the book, so it wouldn't have to cost you anything. So that's the promotion that we have on my website, biohackingunlimited.com. But on the website, Sean, as you know, all my books are there. My speaking bio is there. the Costa Rica VIP trip, which is going to be August 31st till September the 5th. Costa Rica, there's only 30 spots, but it's going to be transformational. Lots of breath work, lots of this types of thing. It's about unleashing your superpower and transformation. All the information on the trip is there. My mentorship programs are there. So everything everybody could ever want to know about me is simply in one place, my website, biohackingunlimited.com.
That's awesome. Well, Dr. Mike, like I said, once again, I'm going to have the web address here on our screen. It's also going to be down in the description area. So for anybody that's out there that wants to get that information, and I'll have all that on there for you. So once again, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. Once again, fantastic information. And one thing I'd just like to share is that we do have a playlist now with all the other videos, because all the other fantastic calls that we've had now are all assembled on our YouTube channel. So we've got all those other ones. So if you want to keep diving in and getting more great information from Dr. Mike, there's a lot more information on there. Dr. Mike, once again, thank you so much. Before I let you go, is there anything else you'd like to say to everybody before we finish?
Yeah, again, a lot of people, they listen and they go like, yes, he's right, but they don't take action. Again, just stop. Think about your purpose. If you need some guidance, reach out to me or anybody who can help you, because this life is passing by. And if you think that the price for success and winning is too high, just wait until you get the bill for regret.
Mm-hmm. I did just hear also that people are living in that zone live much shorter lives. When you're not really following your passion and you're not in that high frequency where you really enjoy what you do, I'm seeing stuff now where they're talking about how that reduces your lifespan because you're miserable.
Of course.
Right?
It's all the negative emotions and feelings and frequencies that surround you. Of course,
Right.
You're just going to have a lot more free radical damage and systemic inflammation from an energetic point of view, and you're not going to make it as long. Of course not. Yeah.
That's right. Dr. Mike, as always, great to see you. Take care. We'll talk again soon. And best wishes to you on your new book.
Thanks for your time, Sean, too. Most people don't realize we have messages, but it's people like you that get these messages out in the world. And so thank you for your time and your efforts also, Sean.
I love you, man. You're awesome. I'll talk to you again soon. Take care.
You too.